also checking leakages and loopholes, you cannot help but start from the very beginning. And that's, you see, there are multiple of those approaches, but let's start with the adoption or implementation of the Treasury single account in the country. One may see it like as a tool for the fight against corruption, but it's also an economic tool because it really helps. Like, for example, we have established from the very beginning that our major source of income, was oil money. There was a time when this President Muhammad Buhari, at the beginning of this administration, requested to know the accounts of the Nigerian oil company. And they were giving him numbers of accounts, about 80-something. And even at then, the managers of that NNPC said that number was not exhaustive. That meaning there were other accounts they even could not really point out to Mr. President. And he said, no, we can't have that happening. He said, the Treasury single account, corporations, agencies, that earn or even not have to really have a one account domiciled in the central bank, so that at least the government is aware of every money that is coming in and what actually goes out. There was a time, that some agencies that were supposed to be remitting money to government corpus, they don't even do that. Years in, years out, although they made the money, it's not like they didn't make the money, but they haven't actually remade anything. And I'll give you an example. There is JAMB. We know JAMB have sold funds to students going to universities for years, actually. But there were particular years in the last administration that they remitted zero kobo to the government corpus, So, but with this government, we have seen billions of naira that agencies like JAMB have been remitting. And other agencies that actually earn income, they have been surpassing their projected expected earnings, such as the Nigerian Custom, such as the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and so on. So that is one tool of blocking loophole, and leakages. Now, you also talk about other issues that the government did to address this, the prudent financial management. I was just reading a report just about, I think, 2 days back, where it is recorded that the amount of money the government has saved in 2 years, in 2017 and 18, from the public service, from the payment, from the careful, administration of all the policies and the IPPS. Not that the past government didn't do it. Of course they did it. But this government took it to another level. They saved about 200 billion, right? 70 billion in 2017 and 130 billion in 2018. And that is a significant amount of money. That's also another thing that the government is doing. Now, government have decided to cut wastes, You see, earlier, before this administration, we have this kind of flamboyant lifestyle. I once wrote an article, actually, during the UNGA, not this one, the last one. I was there with the delegation of the Nigerian delegation. And we saw what really happened. There was a significant change. The 2 years before this administration, the reported number of people that followed the government delegation was about 570-something people. Actually said by the Nigerian ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Amin Wali, it was a record. But when this administration came, they went to the UN General Assembly in 2017 with less than 100 people, even with all the government ministries and agencies. And you see, this is what I call change. So the amount of waste, and leakages that this government is cutting, it adds to the prudent financial management of the resources. Because if you don't actually, if you don't really take care of the small resources you have, you cannot do anything with it for the larger group of the society or of the population. That is now what we are beginning to see. This government is doing more with very, very less than what other governments has actually been earning. And we've had the vice president, and he's very right on that. With the kind of funds that was budgeted, appropriated, and also released to the capital projects. That's very important. We cannot overemphasize that particular area, because if you don't develop those critical factors of your infrastructures, nothing what we are saying about the economy can't take off. The foreign direct investment can't come in. The local investment will not also spoil. And if we address the key infrastructures, even the interest rate, such as critical component for investment, can come down where you and I can actually take our little savings and also invest in the economy. But those cannot come down. Those indices of the economy that can help me and you to invest can come down if the infrastructure is not built. So that is also the area that this government is doing quite well. And for this government for us to witness where we want to go as a country economically, I think we have to continue on this trajectory of growing our infrastructure, of diversifying our economy, of the prudent financial resources, the scarce, may I add, resources that we have, because with the kind of population that we have, we really have scarce resources. That's the truth about it. And that's the fundamentals of economy. There is no country or anybody that will tell you, I have enough resources. Yeah. I have all what I want. No, you never have enough of what you want to do. All you need to do is how do you manage with the little you have to actually gain the most that you want. Exactly,
Aliu Abdullahi, but we'd like to take the tweets because Nigerians are talking on the topic. And we begin with the tweet from Law Alpha C. The agricultural revolution policy of the present government has successfully diversified the economy and brought it in its wake employment.
This is still from Law Alpha. It says the local content policy implementation of the present administration has impacted positively on the economy, making us export-oriented and gradually self-reliant.
Okay, and Usaini Baba Mai says Nigeria's economy is something broad that needs more time to be revived when collapsed. I believe that the present administration will change it.
Akeju Olagbaju tweets says the Nigerian economy is still a mixed bag. The ERGP, if properly implemented, particularly hopefully with regard to areas of agriculture, manufacturing and infrastructure, we will see dramatic improvements in the economy. All right, so those are the tweets that we have. Yeah.
You'll be joining Lagos.
Yeah.
And our guest in Lagos, Mr. Ogunsayo, is there. We're talking about the fundamentals of prudent financial management and looking at the global and local fundamentals. What's your take on that?
This is the period where we need to be able to manage our resources most efficiently. And that's because even from the CBN's outlook as well, foreign exchange stability is going to be the priority for this year. So the question is, why is foreign exchange stability going to be priority? And that's because globally, estimates from the International Monetary Fund, estimates from the World Bank shows that the expected global growth this year will be lower than last year. And so there's a potential for foreign investors to want to take out capital from the country. And so foreign exchange stability will be a priority, and it becomes more important for us to be able to manage the limited resources we have when it comes to revenue, to be able to deploy such revenue into the right places. Let's look at the federal government's revenue at the moment. We've seen consistent decline in federal government revenue, but despite this decline, we've seen a lot of investment going into critical sectors like infrastructure, works power, and housing. And so I'd mentioned earlier that we've seen investment in infrastructure triple what it was previously. But there are other three things that we need to focus on as well. Let's look at what is going on with the social investment program. We've seen investments to over 300,000 individuals under the conditional cash transfer. We've seen another investment into N-Power for over 500,000 young graduates that allows them to be able to be productive. Again, for the CBN, to be able to prudently manage the scarce resources, a lot of investment has gone into managing micro, small, medium, and medium-sized enterprises. And so over 1 million MSMEs are getting interest-free loans from the central bank. But perhaps the largest is the over 9 million school children that are being fed today. If you look at all of this, it is good news. Is it great news? Oh yes, it is not yet great news, but we need to keep on making progress. Are there areas that we need to focus on? Oh, certainly there are areas we need to focus on. If we look at our GDP growth right now, there are some sectors that are doing well, but there are some sectors that are still weak. So agricultural crop production is doing well, but we need to be able to find ways to ensure that banks give young Nigerians and businesses access to credit. And so while we've seen a lot of progress in these areas, the reason why the common man, for instance, isn't seeing all this progress is because a lot of Nigerians still don't have access to loans. A lot of Nigerians still don't have access to credit. The information we have, for instance, shows that less than 4,000 Nigerians account for over 80% of the money the banks have given out. And so we've seen progress in security, we've seen progress in infrastructure, but we need to be able to get credit to much more Nigerians than we currently have been able to have done in the past.
3 priorities of the change agenda of the present administration is security, anti-corruption, war, and the economy, among others. Do you think we've taken big steps towards achieving this? I'm bringing the question to you again. 3 priorities of this present administration is the security, anti-corruption, war, and the economy. Anti-corruption, war, and the economy. Corruption, war, and the economy.
Again, corruption is a very sensitive topic that I always try and avoid, because if we start to discuss corruption, we perhaps wouldn't end the show on any other topic other than discussions on corruption. But have we seen recoveries being made by the EFCC? Oh yes, we've seen recoveries being made. There are challenges on the exact figure that has been recovered, but without doubt recoveries have been made. Has the whistleblower policy been effective? The information we have is that over 100 billion naira has been recovered because of the whistleblower policy. However, we've got some not so good news from the global body that ranks corruption within the public sector. And so we've seen good and positive news, and we've seen some negative news when it comes to corruption. But the economy is what Nigerians are concerned about. The number of Nigerians that have no jobs, over 20 million. But here's the good news. We've got 20 million Nigerians that are looking for jobs, but within the same report, it shows that 70 million Nigerians have got jobs. And so, while on one hand, we need to find a solution to boost private sector investments, because it's through the private sector that we can create jobs, not through the public sector. So we need to put more emphasis on promoting programs and policies that will encourage the private sector to invest and give Nigerians jobs, while the government is focused more on policies rather than trying to create jobs. There's a limit to the number of jobs governments can create, but there's no limit to the number of jobs that the private sector can create. But in the final analysis, let's remember the words of Mahatma Gandhi before he died in 1948. He says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And so we cannot leave it all to the government. We ourselves have to play our role in ensuring that we act as responsible citizens, especially when it comes to managing our population, ensuring that we are all not just givers of bribe and we're also not collecting bribes. There are several areas that we can't keep looking up to the government as our big brother for progress. We also need to be able to make more progress by ourselves.
And on that final analysis, we would like to thank you, Babajide Ogunsanwo, an information analyst, for coming on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. Thank you so much for coming.
All right, so back to our Abuja studios. Earlier you were talking about the debt profile at the takeoff of the current administration. Are you satisfied with the current debt management strategy?
Yeah, I am. And I think it's quite creative. One, immediately, or rather, a situational analysis of our debt profile in 2015 showed a very skewed domestic foreign debt profile. I think at that time it was 73% to 27% ratio between local and foreign debt. And of course, what that means is that we were paying more to service our debt because the interest rate, cost of debt in Nigeria is quite high, you know. At the time, it went as high as 21%, 23%, you know. And so there was, and of course, the foreign debt was ranging between 6 and 9%. So it only makes sense that you try and rebalance the profiling so that you can enjoy the benefit of the two worlds. Why we don't support total extermination of domestic debt, because domestic debt also help oil the economy, the local economy. You also want to reduce the cost of servicing the debt by exploiting foreign debt. So over time, I think there's a balance. It's already over 30%. So it's a 70. I think the last figure, it's between 65 and 67 to 32-33 ratio. The target is 60-40 ratio, and I think that equilibrium should be okay. One, to keep our domestic financial sector going, then to also reduce the service the debt cost of debt, you know, servicing debt. So I feel good about that. In fact, to the extent that, and I think this should also be commended. Normally, government roll over debts, you know, but the debt management office, through the approval of the government, decided to pay down a percentage of our local debts. And that is creative, because what it does is to reduce the burden of the total debt, as it were, and also by extension reduce the cost of debt, as it were. So I think it's good going forward.
All right, Neyi Akinsuju, investment and financial analyst, thank you for being with us on the program today.
My pleasure, always.
We also would like to thank Aliyu Abdullahi, a lawyer and policy analyst. Thank you, Aliyu, for being on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Now, moving on, we're going to foreign news. Belgium to play host to former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo after his conditional release by the International Criminal Court, ICC, last month. Details of this with Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo is now in Belgium under the conditional release after being acquitted by the International Criminal Court ICC last month. Part of the conditions for his release is that Gbagbo will return to court if required for a possible prosecution appeal against the acquittal, and that he will surrender his passport to the Belgian authorities. Belgium has said it would, in principle, host 73-year-old Gbagbo pending a possible appeal after he was cleared of crimes against humanity on January 15. A spokesperson from Belgium's immigration service said Gbagbo confirmed he had been given a visa which allows him stay for 90 days in the country. The former leader and his aide had been staying in an undisclosed location since their release from an official detention center late on Friday.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go now to our desk on arts and entertainment.
I want to go yourself. Sell your vote, you don't sell your future. Sell your